Hey everybody, it's Tyler Austin from Midgard Strength and Conditioning. Thank you so much for watching. So this is part 3 into my intro into CQB series. If you haven't watched the first 2 parts, definitely be sure to check those out because like I said in those parts, each part is going to build off of the previous. So if you haven't seen those first 2 episodes, definitely be sure to check them out. Now in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the difference between a center fed room and a corner fed room and the 2 different types of corner fed rooms. Now, hopefully this is a little bit quicker video than the previous 2 because it's a pretty straightforward topic and there's not a whole lot to explain here. So let's go ahead and dive right on into it. So first off, we're going to talk about center fed rooms, and pretty self-explanatory. A center fed room is a room in which the door is located in roughly the center of the wall it's attached to, and depending on the room shape, of course, is going to feed that doorway is going to feed roughly into the center of the room, hence a center fed room. Generally speaking, when you're talking about center fed, you're going to have hard corners on either side of the door, especially when you're dealing with an actual room. Now, of course, it's going to depend on the room shape, of course. So if you're dealing with like a really narrow linear type room, something that's like a little bit of a hallway or a corridor or something like that, then these would probably be easy corners. But again, generally speaking, when you're talking about like actual rooms, these will be hard corners on both sides of the door. So that is a center fed room. Pretty self-explanatory. Now, moving on to corner feds. So a corner fed room is a room where the door is located in one of the corners of the room and obviously feeds into or from one of the corners of the room. So again, pretty self-explanatory. Now, there are 2 types of corner feds. There are positive corner feds and negative corner feds. Now, this actually has nothing to do with how the room is set up or where the door is located, other than it being a corner fed, of course. This has everything to do with how you approach the room and where you begin clearing the room, or which side of the door you approach from, and which side of the door you actually begin clearing the room from. So in a positive corner fed is where you approach the doorway, and whether this is an open doorway or you open the door, but from where you are able to immediately see the this really close wall, and you're able to identify that it's a corner fed room. So if you were standing, let me go ahead and erase this. So if you were standing right here, and whether the door was already open or you opened the door, you're able to see this wall right here, and you're able to see that it's a really close wall, and you're right then and there you're able to identify that this is a corner fed room. Now, this is important because you got to understand human nature a little bit. If you're searching for someone in this room and they're even remotely suspicious that someone is searching for them. Now, this might be a little bit different, of course, if you take them completely by surprise. But if they're at all suspicious that someone might be searching for them, they're probably not going to be standing on this side of the room because, human nature, and even someone who has no training, they know if they're standing here that they're really exposed to this doorway. So they're probably not going to be standing there if they think someone might be coming through that doorway looking for them. As opposed to something like a center fed where they're probably not going to be standing in the middle. Typically, if they're worried that someone's searching for them, they're probably going to go. They can go to either side of this room to limit their exposure to the doorway. But in a corner fed, they don't have that option because again, the door's in the center, in the corner of the room. And if they stood in this side of the room, they're still really exposed to the doorway. So if there's someone going to be in here, they're more than likely going to either be in the 90 degrees or off to the deep side of the room. So in this case, it would be the left side. So when you're able to identify immediately from the doorway that this is a corner-fed room, you can now note to yourself that if there's going to be someone in this room, particularly they know I'm kind of coming, they're probably going to be either from the 90 degrees or until the deep side of the room. Now, it doesn't mean that we just take this for granted, of course, but again, we can make a mental note that, you know, if someone's going to be in here, they're going to be on the, more likely on the deep side of the room. Okay, so a negative corner fed is actually the opposite. So in a negative corner fed is the side of the room in which you approach, and again, whether this door was open or you opened it, you're not able to immediately tell whether or not this is a corner fed or not because you're looking into the deep side of the room. So, you know, in terms of your perspective, if you're standing, go ahead and erase that. If you're standing right here looking into this room, to you, there's, at this moment, there's no difference between this and this. You know, this room could be this for all you know, because again, you're looking into the deep side of the room. And it's not until you start actually clearing and slicing this room, working this room, that you identify late that this is a corner fed. So it's either going to be when you hit the 90 degree or you start clearing this 45 here that you notice this wall and you go, shit, this is a corner fed. I need to readjust, because again, in a corner fed, they're more likely, if there's going to be someone here, they're more likely to be on the deep side, and you're over here, let's say you're now right here, clearing this end of the room that, although you still need to clear, but it's a lot less important than this side, because again, this side is a lot more dangerous to you. And while you're right here, you know, at that moment when you're right here clearing the side that's the least dangerous to you, you're now exposed to the dangerous side of the room, if you will. Now, in this case, I don't want to dive too deep into this because obviously there's going to be future videos, but in this case, you would just swap your focus, obviously from this side to this side, and you would swap apexes to, meaning the side of the door frame you're working. Again, that's future videos. Don't worry if you didn't understand that. So yeah, that's a negative corner fed. Again, has absolutely nothing to do with the actual room other than it being a corner fed. It's how you approach the room and when you can identify that this room is a corner fed room. Now, I have a little animation for you that's going to help visualize this better for you. I made this frame by frame, so don't expect the world from it, but it's good enough to give you a better visual understanding of what I'm talking about here in terms of the difference between a positive and a negative corner fed. So let's go ahead and check that out.
All right, so here is this really big money animation that I promised you all. Hopefully this will cement the idea better of the differences between a positive and a negative corner fed, at least better than what dots on a whiteboard will do. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So here is a positive corner fed in this example. The individual clearing the room, he is going to be on the narrow. He is going to approach the narrow. At this point, from his location, again, he is called he is on what is called the narrow. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch part 2. But from this angle, although his view into the room is very narrow, he can tell immediately. He can see this wall here in this example, this door, this threshold or doorway, if you will. It doesn't even necessarily have a door on it. It's just a threshold, really, just for simplicity's sake. But from here, from the narrow, he can see this wall and immediately recognize that this room is a corner-fed room, which again allows him to orient himself better to the room as he's clearing it, because he knows that, you know, there's going to be somebody in the room. He's most likely not going to be in this area here, especially if he's even remotely suspicious someone is searching for him. Not saying there can't be someone there, obviously, but generally speaking, there's going to be someone in this room. They're going to be either at the 90 degree or off to the deep side of the room. So again, because he's able to recognize immediately from the get-go that this is a corner-fed room, it allows him to clear the room more efficiently and safely. So let's go ahead and just take a look at this. Now, this is going to be topics of separate videos. So he's going to work to the 45, now snap the 90, work to the second 45 degree, and eventually take the 180. And that's, you know, exactly how you should, you know, clear that room, particularly in this example, which is just a solo one-man room clearing situation. All right, and next we have the negative corner fed. So in this example, the individual clearing the room, he's going to approach the room. Again, he's going to be on the narrow. However, from his vantage point here, he is looking into the deep side of the room. So he cannot tell off the bat from his position that this is a corner fed. For all he knows, this could be a center fed, and this could extend way out here. So again, he just cannot tell that this is a corner fed from the doorway from the narrow. So he's going to do exactly what he should do. He's going to work this apex here, and by apex I'm just meaning this side of the door frame or the threshold, and he's going to start working. He's going to work to the 45. Next, he's going to start working to the 90 and then snap the 90 when he gets there. Now, from this position, he may or may not be able to tell that this is a corner fed, just kind of depending on the room geometry and necessarily how deep this corner is here. But regardless, in this example, he's going to continue to clear to about the 45. At this point, he's able to see this wall, and now he knows, really late in the game, if you will, that this is a corner fed. Now, this is still an area that needs to be cleared. However, the real danger area here is this area right over here, the deep side of the room, because especially now, in his position, he's exposed to a huge portion of the room, and right now he's oriented towards the least dangerous side of the room. Again, this still needs to be cleared. However, particularly in this situation where you're solo, your attention really needs to be over here on the deep side of the room, because again, this is the most dangerous part of the room, and this 180 really hasn't been fully cleared yet. So at this point, what the proper thing to do is actually to immediately swap apexes. So right now he was working this side of the door frame. He's immediately going to swap over and orient himself around this part of the door frame, i.e. this apex, and continue clearing the room, which is what this looks like. Again, this is going to be topics of future videos, exactly, why we do it this way and how you actually clear the room and all that, both in a solo context and a team context. So, I'm not going to dive too deep into that here. But either way, hopefully this little animation kind of gave you a better idea of the differences between a positive and a negative corner fed and how it actually affects how you clear the room, and potentially particularly a negative corner fed, the potential danger there is when clearing a negative corner fed, because again, unbeknownst to you, you're kind of clearing the least dangerous side when you need to be kind of more oriented towards the most dangerous side. Again, particularly in a solo situation, this changes a little bit, or can change a little bit, certainly when you're dealing within a team context. However, particularly in a solo context, there's definitely differences and potential dangers when clearing a negative corner fed. So, hope this helps. Hope you found this video helpful and informative, and I look forward to seeing you in the next part. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, informative, and entertaining. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, or follow depending on where you're watching this. You can follow me on Instagram at Tyler_MidgardStrength, and I am also on Zion. My two community pages are Midgard Strength and Conditioning and Gungnir Strategic. You can scan their respective codes here or search for them on the community search page. If you like my strength and conditioning content, check out my podcast, the Classical Strength Podcast, available on all major podcast platforms. Finally, if you would like to become stronger and healthier than you've ever been in your life, consider hiring me as your coach. I offer the most effective and personalized online coaching in the industry. So if that's something that would interest you, visit my website, midgardstrength.com, or you can email me directly at tyler@midgardstrength.com. Thanks for watching.